Every black person should vote Republican at least once in this election cycle. I can dig it. Rock on, Steven. But getting them to do that only once is like getting an obese person to try a salad. Just once. Sure, it'll be really good for them, but when they don't see the immediate effects of eating that salad, they'll go back to their earlier eating habits and look for any excuse to reject proper diet and exercise and try to convince themselves that they're happy with being who they are while being miserable about it.
I think what's happening. Propaganda.
Following through with that analogy would be, here's the Democrats with their restaurant. They got pizza, pie, ice cream. You can eat all you want because they make rich white people pay for it. Next door, you have the Republicans with their restaurant of steamed poultry and veggies. Sure, it's a much healthier diet, but definitely not as much fun to eat. Oh, and you have to pay for the food with the money you earned. Which restaurant do you think is going to have more people eating there? The irony is that the Democrats are the ones who are trying to control how people eat. Republicans are the ones who say, eat what you want. But it wouldn't be a bad idea to be conservative about what and how you eat, so as to prolong enjoyment of good health. That's what it is to conserve and be a conservative, so as to prolong enjoyment instead of being liberal with things that ultimately squander. Getting all American blacks to vote Republican doesn't suit their palate. Republicans are too bland for them. They need their food flavored with the MSG of race baiting and class baiting. Democrats pump that flavor in their food, which is really, really bad for them. But so what? It's delicious. Being made to feel like a victim for many blacks and being made to feel like you're a member of the 99% is comfort food for them. They've been conditioned to feel like it's important for them to identify themselves as the field Negroes and to hate the so-called house Negro. Meanwhile, the so-called house Negro that the race-baiting blacks call us is like, you do realize that slavery was abolished like 150 years ago, yet your mind is still in the fields, a place you've never been. Yet you want to stay brain chained to a place where Democrats wanted to keep you and still want to keep you. You think the Democrats have changed and that the Republicans aren't the party of Lincoln anymore. Democrats haven't changed. They still want you to be dependent on the master, and they're still dependent on you. It's just that now, instead of using blacks to farm cotton, they now use you to farm votes. And you've been suckered into believing that this off-balance circle of dependency is Democrats doing something for black folks. If Democrats do so much for you, why are you still so angry? Why are you still saying we shall overcome as if it hasn't already happened? I'll tell you why overcoming hasn't happened for you. Because you've been suckered into voting for the party that you were supposed to overcome. I'm still not understanding this butthurt logic of hating Republicans because they don't do nothing for black folks. If the Democrats are making life so wonderful for you, why do you need Republicans to do anything for you? The government isn't supposed to do things for you. You're so busy with this entitlement mindset of people doing something for you that you fail to see that the way out of poverty is by doing for others. It's called service. And the better you are at a service, the better you get paid. But you've been conditioned to see service as slavery, just the way the Democrats want it. The Democrats want you to believe that you're entitled to other people being deprived of their rights for your comfort. Democrats haven't changed because that's what slavery is all about, depriving someone else of their rights for the comfort of someone else. And Democrats have suckered you into thinking this is doing something for black folks, which in truth only makes life harder for everybody. Whereas the conservative Republican interpretation of the Constitution is that it's not the government's job to do for you. The government's job is to protect you. So if you want to start a business, the conservative official is the one who guards your business from the liberal official with how much they want to liberally tax and liberally regulate that business, which weakens the hiring power of that business, which makes it harder for you to find a job. But the Democrats will make you think they're doing something good for you because taxing them rich white folks, which is making them pay their fair share. And jobs, whatever. We Democrats are the ones who are really for the black man because we're going to make those rich white business owners pay more in unemployment benefits. Black people, you are voting for the party that fought to keep the slave market legal. You're voting for the party that authored Jim Crow. You're You're voting for the party that created the KKK. All the bigotry that has so deeply scarred America was the Democrats, and you vote for them. And then you try to justify it by cherry-picking penny-ante BS about a few Republicans who did something that you have to reach way up into your behind to pull out as racism, despite all the institutionalized bigotry of the Democrats. Y'all have been suckered into believing that there was a big party switch because of Barry Goldwater and Lee Atwater. Goldwater got all the votes of legions of Southern white conservatives. Really? You know Goldwater lost, right? If Republicans are all about this bigotry you're talking about that Barry Goldwater was supposedly promoting, then I guess we should have had a President Goldwater. And according to this big switch story, did a bunch of Republicans go and become Democrats? No. All you got is some confused Democrats who voted Republican. Yet despite all the bigotry of the Democrat Party, Barry Goldwater is enough for y'all to get hung up on. A lot of blacks insist on holding to the idea that Republicans are the party of rich white people, and white people benefit from the legacy of slavery. If people really benefited off of the legacy of slavery, then the African continent would be the richest population of citizens in the world. People would ask, wow, how are all of y'all so rich? Well, we're benefiting off the legacy of slavery. There's slave markets in Africa now. Africans have been slave trading since thousands of years, before America was even thought about. Democrats have effectively conditioned many blacks to willingly participate in the Democrats' genocidal campaign against them via Planned Parenthood. But many blacks want to believe it's Republicans that are doing something to them and not doing anything for them. Democrats be like, hey there, my black sister, are you pregnant? We can abort that thing and make someone else pay for it. But if you decide to keep that thing, here's a block of cheese and a check, and there's more where that came from. If you keep those votes coming for us, and make sure you don't have a contributing husband, or else no social assistance for you. And then there's this crap by Snoop Dogg, trying to blame gang violence on Reagan, which was already happening before Reagan was elected. Tookie Williams and Ray Washington set off the Crips in 1969. Sets were forming throughout the 70s. They were already involved with drug trafficking, robbery, extortion, murder, burglary, prostitution, and theft. Due to other rivalries, the Bloods came about as early as 1972. So take that formula of rival gang members trying to be the hardest, add drugs, and time to grow, and I say to you assuredly, that powder keg was gonna blow regardless of Reagan. Reagan had nothing to do with it. You can't blame Reagan for guns in your neighborhood because y'all were happy to buy them and sell them and shoot each other with them. That's your fault. You made millions off rapping about it. You didn't make money off of rapping about after-school programs. Before the 1960s, black folks didn't get to enjoy all these after-school programs. They didn't go around shooting each other. When Republicans and the NRA made sure blacks had guns to protect themselves from the Democrat KKK, they didn't use those guns to shoot each other with. The reason why we ended up with the Black Panthers, and understandably so, was because of the institutionalized bigotry of Democrats. Many of those who were in the Black Panthers ended up taken to the gangs like the Crips. And here's another area where Snoop is full of it. The Crips will try to make their cause seem noble by suggesting that Crips stands for Community Resources for Independent People, as they walk with a cane because looking like a crippled pimp is supposed to be fly. Meanwhile, Snoop Dogg, the Democrat, advocates for social programs. There's nothing independent about social programs, Snoop. That's institutionalized dependency. Everything about these gangs was dependency. Sell debilitating products to people for them to be dependent on, and promote the ideology that people should be dependent on the state, because the government should provide for the people. And if we can't depend on the state, we'll act like a bunch of spoiled brats and resort to violence. Reagan had nothing to do with the explosion of gang violence. Reagan's evil. He put crack in our neighborhoods, but I'm gonna go smoke it or sell it. Reagan's evil. He put AIDS in our neighborhood, yet I'm gonna go brag about how many hoes I done dug out or pimped out and blame Reagan for AIDS. Reagan's evil. He put guns in our neighborhoods, but I can't wait to get me one and go shoot somebody just because they've got on a color I don't like. And then I'm gonna make $1 million rapping about it, promote the lifestyle that makes it attractive to others, and blame Reagan. And I'm gonna do other stupid things like post hateful statements against Mitt Romney and accuse Romney of using the N-word all the time. Meanwhile, Snoop has made his living off of using the N-word all the time. And no matter how you say the N-word, whether it's ah or it ain't friendly. When you listen to gangster rap and they're speaking about fantasies of smoking some other dude, they will say the N-word ending with ah, and it ain't friendly. Side note, there's this stupid theory that if we just keep saying it over and over again, it'll lose its power and lose its meaning. That's a dumb theory and shows the contradiction of liberals. They want to be all about free speech while insisting on political correctness. But this idea of repeating it over and over again will desensitize it and it'll lose its power. Oh, well, I guess you liberals might want to stop repeating climate change over and over again. You wouldn't want it to lose its power. You might want to stop saying separation of church and state over and over again. You wouldn't want it to lose its power. Or on the other side of your so-called logic, if saying the N-word over and over again will cause it to lose its effect, then you should encourage us to say under God in the Pledge of Allegiance over and over again, all the time. So it'll lose its effect, like saying the N-word over and over again is supposed to. Actually, the country is not getting better for people constantly repeating the word. And the ones who repeat it the most over and over again typically vote Democrat if they vote at all. You want to accuse Republicans of doing it when it's you doing it all day. It's been Democrats propagating racism all day. And they've had blacks hoodwinked for decades. So I dig what Stephen is saying in his suggestion to vote Republican. But it doesn't do much good to vote Republican if you're of the mindset that the government is supposed to subsidize your comforts and interests. They may very well miss the fact that jobs are more available, which leads to more opportunity. When Bush was president, unemployment was at 5%, but they didn't see it because they wanted Bush to do something for them that they would have never been satisfied with anyway, unless he would have blown his brains out, because they were conditioned to only find some sense of satisfaction in hating him so much for being a Republican, the way the Democrat KKK always wanted. I'm Alfonso Rachel with ZoNation, and I know you're suckered into believing it's the KKK voting Republican now. Congratulations, you fell for that one too. You're still being herded and manipulated, and the Democrats still have you under their control. Here's a block of cheese and a check,